So you know what's so funny? Before this game started, I was like, okay, look, Barcelona is going to be missing quite a few players. The fact that players like Frankie's not going to be here, or Dembele, or Christensen, or even Pedri, I was like, okay, we're probably going to have we're going to have a very tough time trying to get through this Real Madrid team, but we can do it. Maybe it's going to be way difficult than ever before, but we can still push through. This is very similar to, like, let's say for example, if Real Madrid lost Modric, Benzema, Vinicius, and Militao. Very similar. But you and me knew, right? At that time, before the game even started, we're like, Barcelona can still pull through. We just have to have the perfect game. But after seeing Barcelona lose 4-0 and in this way, I was like, you know, I actually maybe expected for Barcelona to lose, but not at this type of way. Like 4-0, really? The fact that Benzema got a hat trick and Vinicius scored a goal, this is probably like the worst way to lose. Like I said, I expected us to struggle, but not to struggle in this way, and especially not to lose in this way. So it's a very difficult game to digest. And let me tell you, did we really miss those players like Dembele, the player who can do the 1v1s or the 1v2s? We missed Frankie with his defensive abilities, and we also missed Christensen, who is the player that can hold the ball way better than Marcos Alonso, who was a player that can also track back. And then of course we also missed Pedri, a player that can organize the game for us and really pick those passes in the final third that can be very lethal. So I'm not here to make excuses. I'm not trying to like paint this picture that, you know, like this is the reason why Barcelona lost, and if we had these players we would have won. I'm not trying to give out that type of impression. I just want to kind of understand why Barcelona fell like this and lose 4-0. And yes, a lot of it does have to do with the players that were missing, and a lot of it also has to do with Xavi Hernandez not having his defensive tactics correct. Like there were many times in this game where Barcelona were being outnumbered when Real Madrid were going on the counter or they were trying to attack. There were so many times, right? Like if you were to rewatch this match, you can see that Barcelona were on a 3 versus 4, where Barcelona had 3 defenders and that they had to defend 4 attackers from Real Madrid. There were so many times like that. Or it was a 3 versus 2 where we saw Benzema, Vinicius, and Rodrigo attacking Koundé and Araujo, or Araujo and Marcos Alonso. So we were being outnumbered so many times, and even though Real Madrid did not score in that type of fashion when they were outnumbering Barcelona, that still gave them a lot of confidence because they knew that Barcelona did not have their tactics correct, which is why I believe that Real Madrid gained a lot of confidence in the second half, because they're like, you know, Barcelona mentally they're not there, the tactics are not also correct, we can definitely win this game. And again, people might say Jules Koundé had a really bad game. Yes, of course he did. He had a horrible game, but that's because he was being outnumbered. Like if you look at all of the defensive duels that he had to, when he had to encounter those defensive duels, he was being outnumbered. Very similar to what Man City did to Liverpool 5 days ago, where we saw Manchester City just outnumbering Liverpool constantly over and over again, just overpowering Van Dijk or Trent. We saw what happened between Grealish and De Bruyne versus Trent. Man City put Liverpool on multiple 2 versus 1s, and the same thing happened with Real Madrid tonight against FC Barcelona. They put Barcelona on a very difficult situation to defend. And so again, if we had players like Christensen, Frankie, Pedri, and also Dembele, we probably would have had way more control of the ball, probably put a higher line, probably attack Real Madrid constantly and over again, and to the point where it lowers their confidence, and maybe Barcelona could have probably won. But in this game, it was the opposite. If anything, Real Madrid gained all the confidence. They knew that Barcelona could not do anything, and especially when they saw Rafinha versus Camavinga, they're like, oh wow, like we have an injured Camavinga and Rafinha still can't go through him. Like they have nothing and we can score goals. Why even worry about this Barcelona team right now at this stage? So a lot of things really did annoy us through this match, and I'm going to be starting with point number 1. I liked how Barcelona started in this game, where we saw Barcelona constantly trying to look for the 1v1s, whether it was for Lewandowski to go up against Militao or Rafinha versus Camavinga, but none of those duels ended up working out for FC Barcelona. Like we saw Barcelona make many long passes in the first 15 minutes that led towards those 1v1s, but nothing really happened coming from that. So the attack of Barcelona was very inefficient. Like I just really wished at that time we had Dembele. Dembele would probably cooked Camavinga multiple times, but unfortunately we did not have that player. Another thing that really did annoy me was the situation itself. Rafinha versus Camavinga. Rafinha in the first half only completed 1 dribble out of the 6, and those 6 were against Camavinga. He only had 2 passes in the final third, and out of the 3 crosses that he tried to distribute outside the box, 0 of them were actually accurate. He also lost the most duels in the first 45 minutes, which was a total of 8. And we're talking about an injured Camavinga here. Like Rafinha could have done so much more. He could have had the better game. And you know what's crazy is that I think that many of us knew what was the weakness of Camavinga. We talked about this before, like about 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I was talking about how Camavinga, when he is trying to face those long balls in the air, he's really weak at that. And I said, like many times, I'm like, if Real Madrid ever play Barcelona, they have Camavinga as a left back, we have to take advantage of that. And the way that you could take advantage of Camavinga is to make those long passes into the air for Rafinha to receive. But we did not really see a lot of that in the first 45 minutes, but that should have been done so many times. So we knew the weaknesses, but Barcelona did not tackle it. I remember there was a moment on the 52nd minute. You can go to that minute. On the 52nd minute in the second half, Marcos Alonso made a long ball in the air to Rafinha, and Rafinha actually won the ball, and there was a great converting chance there. So why didn't Barcelona continue to do that when they knew that Camavinga had a clear weakness? So that was the second thing that really did annoy me. And the other one, right, it is about Vinicius and how I would say the ref really leaned towards favoring Real Madrid. And let me explain. When Real Madrid scored their first goal, which was on the counter after Barcelona almost scored, and then Real Madrid scored their first goal coming from Vinicius, Vinicius went up to the fans of Barcelona and tried to provoke them, basically trying to say, look at me, I'm the best, you guys are nothing, please shut up. And he was just doing a bunch of things. That type of action needs to be assessed by the ref. And you may say, but Kevin, that really isn't anything. Like, Vinicius was only trying to provoke the fans. That's nothing. Like, if Vinicius tried to punch Gavi on the face or something, then yes, you might have a valid reason, but Vinicius did not do something so serious. Well, here's the thing. Like, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, or maybe even 2 days ago, Juventus and Inter Milan played. Lukaku scored a last-minute winner, I believe, and he told the Juventus fans to be quiet, basically signaling at them. And you know what happened right after that? Lukaku received a red card. But when it comes to Vinicius scoring the first goal and telling the Barcelona fans to basically shut up, he was not being punished at all. So I just feel like you could just sense it, that Vinicius is the most protected player in this league. And yes, you better bet that when things like this does happen, it does lower the confidence of FC Barcelona, because when you have the ref favoring the opposition, it is always going to hurt the other team, because they're going to be like, what is going on here? Like, we're trying to play our game, but you want to do things like this? Like when Kessie got fouled by Modric, I believe, and then we saw later on Barcelona supposedly, right, one of the Barcelona players fouling another Real Madrid player right after Kessie fell on the ground. A Barcelona player, I really forgot who it was, but a Barcelona player got a yellow card in the end, and then Xavi Hernandez received a yellow card right after for complaining. So it was just a bunch of things, right? Like when you see the ref acting like this in the first half, and then you see just Barcelona really struggling on trying to tackle Real Madrid's defense due to our lack of players, of course it led towards things like this. And you know, I don't know, like how do we fix this moving forward? How can we become a team where even if we miss our most important players, we can still compete in the end? Because I never want to see this happen again. At the very least, I wanted to compete against Real Madrid, not lose 4-0. And so look, I also do want to shout out 3 players, which is Alejandro Balde. Alejandro Balde had an amazing game. Every time he went on the attack, he was looking for those 1v2s and taking down 2 players. He was successful. He was amazing. A way better attacker than someone like Rafinha on the other end. Like, bro, even Araujo was taking down about 4 to 5 players on the right side and just showing Rafinha, like, this is how it should be done, right? Like, I hope none of you guys get the impression that I'm trying to hate on Rafinha when I'm not. I want these players, and especially with Rafinha, to really pick their game up, because we needed his best version, and yet again, he under-delivered. So Balde really stood out. I think that Gavi also stood out because he really fought for this Barcelona badge. He was always in these constant battles, and you just love to see this player try to take the ball away physically and making those long passes and creating chances for Rafinha, Lewandowski, and Kessie. And then also Kessie himself, right? Kessie played a phenomenal game. I think that he recovered the ball very well. He passed the ball in good spaces, and so I really do give props for Kessie. He really tried to make up for the absence of Frankie and Pedri. But of course, it wasn't enough, because, you know, you can't compare players like Pedri and Frankie to any other player. They're very gem-like players. So in the last 20 minutes, we had a lineup of Ansu Fati on the left, Lewandowski as the striker, Ferran Torres as a right winger, Gavi, Busquets, and Sergio Roberto in the midfield, with Balde, Garcia, Koundé, and Araujo as the back line. It was basically Spain FC. We saw like about 8 Spanish players in that 11, and I think that Xavi really wanted to go for a much more technical type of 11 in the last 20 minutes, because he believed that maybe the goals can come from the inside, having players like Ansu Fati inverting in, or Ferran Torres also inverting in. But it did not end up working out. Barcelona, if anything, looked way more flat in the last 20 minutes. They were not responding to what Real Madrid were doing in the second half by scoring 2 goals in the first 15 minutes of the second half. And so I was like, you know, but Barcelona does not even look like they wanted to play in the last 15 to 20 minutes with an 11 like this. And I thought that something was going to happen, because there was a lot of time. Like when Barcelona was down 3-1 or something like that by the 55th minute or the 58th minute, I'm like, there's still 30 minutes to play. We can still pull something off. But that type of aggressiveness was not there. It was so absent. And that's something that I think that Barcelona should be working on in the summer, because they will encounter situations like this next season, and we have to be animals mentally if we're ever down 3-1 or 4-1. And so that's it, right? So like, do I think that a knockout like this should lower our confidence for the rest of this season? No, I don't think so. Barcelona is still 12 points ahead of Real Madrid in La Liga, which is the title that Barcelona need to win, and it's so mandatory. And I think that if Barcelona just end up with winning La Liga with a squad like this, I would be very, very happy. And then we go on to the next season and figure out how we can win 3 trophies or maybe even 4 trophies. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.